Welcome back to Series 2 of Signals and Sparks. Today is a very special episode for me because I'm joined by an old school chum, Jules Love. We caught up all over the world, Cuba, Tahoe, San Fran, Devon, and notably when he was an advertising photographer and I was living in Australia, we took a trip down to Tasmania, and then when he was in Dubai for another shoot and I was living there, and then we fast forward to today. Jules is a fully fledged entrepreneur in the oft misunderstood world of artificial intelligence, yes. With his wife, he recently founded an AI consultancy called Spark AI, and they're scaling incredibly fast. It's an exciting time for them, and I'm thrilled to squeeze into his calendar to talk about how AI is changing the creative and agency landscape. He knows his stuff, and let me know if you agree. Jules, lovely to catch up with you.
Hi, nice to be here.
So I'm going to launch straight in, if I may. First up, I'd like to talk to you about the signal and the noise. What have you seen recently that's caught your eye and why?
Yeah, great question. So something that I forwarded on to our clients the other day was I saw Martin Sorrell in the press talking about monks. And we've been talking to agencies for a long time about how AI starts to put the traditional time and materials kind of pricing model under a lot of pressure, and how you can move to sort of outcome-based pricing or value-based pricing and other ways of valuing your work. And it was interesting to see that at Monks now, a quarter of all of their work is based not on a project basis, but based just on a monthly fee. And his insight, which I thought was super interesting, is he's looking to move that to 75% by the end of the year, and that he sees the value to clients actually compounds over time, which I thought was quite interesting. We all know that AI tools learn from context, and he's saying, if you work with us on this way, as we start to build workflows and systems that support your marketing, we learn more about you, the AI learns more about you, and actually you get better outcomes and better outputs the longer you're with us, because we build up that historical context. So I thought that was kind of interesting, a nice little subtle lock-in there for clients as well.
I'd love to see how he's actually rolling that out, because that's a lot of what many agencies have tried to do over the past. And I've been a part of lots of performance-related fee structures, and then it gets too complicated and you end up just going, you know what, we'll have a fixed fee based on time and materials. And then you just make sure you're covering the costs for the people who are on that client doing that work for that client, which is a better way of doing it. I mean, it used to be a percentage of production. It used to be,
you didn't pay for you didn't pay for creative in the old days. It was just a percentage of the media buy, right? I think what's interesting with AI and what we're seeing, and what I talk a bit about in my book, is how for some agencies, and Monks are at the forefront of this actually, so perhaps we're not surprised to see it there first, is AI on the creative side. AI starts to move the conversation from, instead of delivering a bunch of assets as the result of a project, so you do a photo shoot, or you do and then a bunch of artwork to create all of the ads. Instead, what you start to deliver is the system that creates the outputs. So you say, actually, what are we building for you? We're not building for you all the assets to run your campaign. We're building a creative workflow that means anytime you run a campaign, you can put in the brief and it will generate the assets for you. And that's where that subscription model, which is the word that Sorrell used, starts to make a lot more sense, because actually what you're buying is a capability. You're not really buying people's time anymore.
It'll be interesting to see how, as we do become more systemized around the tech that is there. But a lot of what I'm seeing from our side of things, and I'm not talking about on the creative side, I'm talking about just getting the plumbing right for the tech that you're getting there. A lot of it is around the governance piece, to make sure that things are put in the right place by the right people at the right time. And it's getting that governance structure, which is the hardest part, and the change, managing the change that comes with the tech that comes in place. So instead of just being a tech consultancy, the bit that I'm a part of right now, we've actually added over the last couple of years a change management function, because that's a key part of, you can give people the tech, but then how's that changing their business?
And that's a large part of what we find ourselves doing at Spark. So, adopting AI in an agency is only a little bit of it is about the tech. Most of it is about changing the way people work. And that's a change management problem. And one that some agencies aren't really set up to do. They haven't really done it before. And I think what's interesting when you start to put AI into workflows is actually you create bottlenecks in other places. You speed up one thing, but it creates the bottleneck somewhere else. And governance and approvals is, and quality control is exactly where you start to see a bottleneck happen quite quickly. You give creatives access to powerful AI workflow tools like Weavy or Flora, and they're suddenly able to generate hundreds of assets in the time they used to take to generate 10. And then you say, well, if everything needs sign-off before it goes to a client, you've now got to sign off 100 things instead of 10 things. And actually your bottleneck becomes quality control, not asset generation. So it throws up all sorts of things then around roles, skills that you need in your agency, org design, and all sorts of stuff that's, nothing to do with the technology anymore.
That's interesting. So you're finding a lot of the work, because you used to work for an organizational design consultancy.
That's right. So AI has sort of been this melding of my sort of management consultant brain and my photography brain. I've spent my career has been kind of half consultant, half advertising photographer. And now I've finally found something that uses both sides of my brain at once, which is great.
Awesome. So which leads nicely to the next question, which is around connecting the dots. So what are you doing today to connect the dots within your business, and how are you seeing the way the world is changing around what you're doing? And I guess at your business, are you driving change, or are you helping people catch up with change?
Great question. We help agencies adopt AI. We have programs that we take agencies through to do that. And the great thing about that is we spend a lot of time in offices, in agencies, talking to them about this stuff. And so we're very connected to clients. So, I still go along to, we have a brilliant coaching team, but I still go along to a reasonable number of the workshops and meet clients and hear what's talked about in the room. And there is nothing better than hearing what a client is trying to do, what they're trying to achieve, what they're getting success at, what they're struggling with, to really shape your view of, how this is starting to change the way people work, what's going to change quickly versus what's going to change slowly, what are the conversations they're having with their clients, what are the ones that they're excited about, what are the ones they're frightened about. And that's how I connect the dots, is staying close to our clients who are trying to do all of this stuff and learning from their experiences. It's kind of interesting. Our clients are hungry to learn from us about what they, how they can be working differently, how they can move forwards, how they can build AI-powered workflows. But actually, we learn as much from our clients as they learn from us, I would say.
And yet they pay you for it.
Yeah, well, the value of being specialized in work, we only work with agencies and brand teams, and the advantage of being specialized like that is your knowledge compounds over time. The reason why people want to work with us and are happy to pay good money to work with us is because we've worked with 50 other agencies and we know the kinds of things that work and don't work, and we bring all of that experience to every engagement, and we get better and better at it every time we do it because we've learned more. So that's, and what we learn from them will help us with the next cohort of clients.
You also do stuff with University of Oxford. So what are you doing there?
Yeah, that's really fun, actually. I've got one coming up in a couple of weeks. So the University of Oxford Business School, the Saïd Business School, run a program called the Advanced Diploma for AI in Business. So it's a year-long program. They get a cohort of about 60 odd executives they're mostly from large corporates, from all around the world. It's very international. They run the program going through that program, and they do 4 weeks residential actually in Oxford, split one week a quarter, and then they get a bunch of homework in between. And I'm fortunate to be one of the guest lecturers on the program, which is great. So I go along once a quarter and I lead a day of the program, and it's all about how to build an AI strategy for your business, how to really mobilize the use of AI in your teams. And then we run a bit of an AI hackathon for different industry sectors, where we get people to collaborate, come up with ideas, use AI to help them explore that idea and pitch it. And we have a little Dragon's Den pitch session at the end of the day, which is great fun. So yeah, really enjoy those days. And that's I've got one coming up on the 11th of March, I think. Yeah.
There you go. Now you mentioned your book. You mentioned that you're working with agencies. It's mainly creative agencies at the moment.
So mostly on the creative side. We're not doing much on the more sort of media side and performance marketing side at the moment. I think we're seeing the pressure on the creative side of the industry is intense right now, and the desire to understand how to adapt to this tech and how to use it for client work is really strong. So we're getting a lot of demand from that part of the industry, I guess. And that's also where our experience lies. My background is working, as a consultant. I was part of the marketing and customer insights team at Accenture. So I worked a lot with marketing teams. And then as a photographer, I worked a lot with brand teams and agencies and creative agencies. So I guess that's our experience and where a lot of our coaches come from as well.
How are things? I want to ask you about the agency sector. What's your view on the future of the agency sector in the face of AI and in the face of new kids off the block, kids coming out of school, university, whatever institution, into the beginnings days of the workforce? Do you think that's going to change radically how one works? Because a lot of the stuff that was done by the young workforce can now be automated or run by LLMs.
Yeah, it's very difficult to predict anything, especially the future. I think is the old expression. I'm not going to pretend I've got some crystal ball and can see how all this is going to map out. There's a lot of very interesting dynamics. Is it going to be disruptive to sort of graduate intake and school leaver intake in the short term? Maybe. I think a lot of agencies are probably saying, well, let's not hire too many young people whilst we wait and see how this plays out. I think we're starting to see companies adapt to that already. So not in our sector, but perhaps a comparator. Deloitte are the largest graduate recruiter in the UK. They recruit about 1,500 graduates a year. And their graduate recruitment has only declined very slightly, and they say that's more to do with market conditions than anything to do with AI. But what they have done is their graduate program is changing. They're changing the skills they teach people. You used to take 3 years to complete your accountancy qualifications, and then whilst learning on the job with clients and all the rest of it, they now accelerate that. They expect you to complete your accountancy qualifications within 2 years, and the skills they teach you are less technical tax and audit skills and more focus on client relationship building, on team working and other things. So I think that's a really forward thinking of Deloitte, and I think perhaps agencies need to be thinking a little bit more like that. We should be training people up to do the jobs of tomorrow, not the jobs of yesterday.
Thank you. I realized that we'd discussed the kind of questions I'll be asking you in advance, and that wasn't one of them. So I'm delighted you managed to wing your way through that one quite knowledgeably. Well done.
Do my best to wing it.
The final section of this piece is to quiz you on the high five. So I'm just going to jump straight in with the first one, which is your hero.
So it says, who do you admire for their ability to spot signals or create sparks? And I would say anyone who is not following Ethan Mollick on LinkedIn is missing out. He's a professor of business and innovation at Wharton Business School in America. He spends a lot of time exploring how AI supports innovation, how it's developing, and he sees it live on the way that his business school students explore with it, and he's very experimental with it himself. He's got a great book out called Co-Intelligence, highly recommend it. And yeah, always eye-opening to see where he's at and what he's thinking about.
Thank you. I'm going to look him up. Your best decision?
Starting Spark. I think absolutely. As I mentioned before, it's kind of finally, it seems like these two separate lives that I've led for the last 25 years have come together and reinforce each other. So yeah, and it's an exciting journey.
Your worst decision?
Yeah, for my health and my free time, probably starting Spark. I think right now, demand for the kind of thing that we do is just through the roof, and we're busy scaling the team, and all of those, usual founder headaches are hitting me big time right now. I keep telling myself it's just the next 3 months, and then, things will stabilize, and ask me again in 3 months. Yeah.
So whilst the job market is a difficult one for many people, you're gung-ho hiring left, right, and center. I'll send all the CVs your way.
Sure. I'll get AI to screen them. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you might. Your funniest moment?
Yeah. So in a work-related context, funniest moment is one of the so we run a bunch of different programs for agencies. One of those is our creative program, where we work with designers and illustrators and creatives, and we show them how to create cool things using AI. We take them from the basics all the way through to super advanced workflows for image and video production. And we're trying to think of what's a great case study that we can use to show people how these tools progress, and that's kind of industry agnostic. It doesn't really matter if they're, what their specialism is, but it's something everyone can relate to. And our lead creative coach, Matthew, was like, we'll just do a dog on a skateboard. I was like, what? You've got to be joking. And but no, we now run it with a dog on a skateboard, and everybody absolutely loves it. So there you go. We show people how to build the perfect dog on a skateboard and turn it into a film, and change the breed of the dog, change the shape of the skateboard, change whether it's skating down a street in LA or in London, and all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of fun.
The dog on the skateboard. All right, I'll remember that one. And finally, a bright spark. I'm going to ask you to recommend one more person who would be interesting to have on this podcast. But of course, to come on the podcast, they'll have to have been to one of the dinner parties that I put on. So do tell me.
Yeah, so one of the most interesting people I've met in the last 6 months or so is Robin Bonn. He's a brilliant consultant working with agencies. He's got a book out called Market of One, and his great point of view, which I think is very true. We all know it's been a tough few years for agencies, but his point of view is, there is not a lack of demand for agency work, and there is not an oversupply of agencies. There is simply a lack of differentiation, and most agencies aren't clear enough about what they really do, why they're different to anybody else at it, and then actually being able to prove that through their real capabilities and not just some clever words on their website. So he's all about finding the thing that you're brilliant at and then proving that you're brilliant at it in ways that other people can't imitate. And so if that's an interesting topic for everybody on this pod, then I think he'd be a great guest for you.
Do you know what? I'm here to have a good chat with Paul Evans. I don't know if you've met Paul Evans, who's all about positioning. And it would be interesting to have those two.
Sounds like they might know each other. Yeah.
Listen, really lovely to catch up with you, Jules. Thanks so much for coming on and having a chat today.
Thanks for having me on.
In the twilight, we gather around the table, stories to share, ideas unstable with signals bright.